Welcome to week 4, day 4 of our e-learning lessons. Our performance task. The reader will need to be able to use reading strategies to preview the text, make predictions, ask and answer questions, and summarize the text to gain a better understanding of the text. Also, the reader will need to use a variety of strategies to determine the meaning of unknown words within the text. Our focus today are essential questions. How can I use text and visual features to help me with my prediction of the article? How can I ask questions about what I am reading to help me with the overall comprehension of the text? Today, I'm going to ask you to please preview and predict. Use text and visual features from the article. The title of the article is called Amphibians. The genre, informational text. It is nonfiction. It will give us true facts and information about amphibians. Directions. Look through at the title, headings, and captions, the text features, and the photographs and the diagram, your visual features. Use them to produce a solid prediction about the text. Write your prediction about the text in your reading assignment. Some students will share their predictions when we do our group lessons. Some of you will share them out loud. And after you're done reading the article, make sure you take time to answer the questions. So as you're previewing the text, we know the title is called Amphibians. We see 3 photographs or visual features at the beginning with text feature of a caption underneath each one. We've got a bright and colorful tree frog. We've got a brightly colored salamander. And we have a darkish gray, almost like a brownish gray, Sicilian. You have the headings of what are amphibians? Amphibians are cold-blooded. Growing up from egg to adult. Stages of a frog. And we can see the A, B, C, D, E, and we know these stages from our science classes. We have types of amphibians. And where do they live? And they means amphibians. So where do amphibians live? What do they eat? Big and small. Fun facts about amphibians. And then there's some questions you're going to need to make sure you answer for your assignments today. Once you finish those 5 questions, you have completely finished the assignments for today. Now that we just went through the text looking at the important parts of it, now I'd like to take time to read the text with you. Amphibians, tree frog, salamander, Sicilian. What are amphibians? Amphibians are a class of animals like reptiles, mammals, and birds. They live the first part of their lives in the water and the last part on land. When they hatch from their eggs, amphibians have gills, so they can breathe in the water. They also have fins to help them swim just like fish. Later, their bodies change, growing legs and lungs, enabling them to live on the land. The word amphibian means 2 lives, one in the water and one on land. Amphibians are cold-blooded. Like fish and reptiles, amphibians are cold-blooded. This means their bodies don't automatically regulate their temperature. They must cool off and warm up by using their surroundings. Growing up from egg to adult. Most amphibians hatch from eggs. After they hatch, their bodies are still in the larvae stage. In this stage, they are very much like fish. They have gills to breathe underwater and fins to swim with. As they grow older, their bodies undergo changes called metamorphosis. They can grow lungs to breathe air and limbs for walking on the ground. The transformation isn't the same in all amphibians, but they all go through some sort of metamorphosis. Stages of a frog. As an example of metamorphosis, we will look at the frog. A, After hatching, the frog is a tadpole with a tail and gills. B. It becomes a tadpole with 2 legs. C. A tadpole with 4 legs and a long tail. D. Froglet with a short tail. E. Full-grown frog. Types of amphibians. Frogs. Frogs are amphibians of the order Anura. They generally have short body, webbed fingers and toes, bulging eyes, and no tail. Frogs are good jumpers with long, powerful legs. Toads are a type of frog. 2 species of frogs are the American bullfrog and the poison dart frog. Salamanders. Salamanders look a bit like lizards. They have skinny bodies, short legs, and long tails. Salamanders can regrow lost limbs and other body parts. They like wet, moist areas like wetlands. A newt is a type of salamander. Caecilians. Caecilians are amphibians that don't have legs or arms. They look a lot like snakes or worms. Some of them can be long and reach lengths of over 4 feet. They have a strong skull and a pointed nose to help them burrow through dirt and mud. Where do they live? Amphibians have adapted to live in a number of different habitats, including streams, forests, meadows, bogs, swamps, ponds, rainforests, and lakes. Most of them like to live in or near water and in damp areas. What do they eat? Adult amphibians are carnivores and predators. They eat a variety of food, including spiders, beetles, and worms. Some of them, like frogs, have long tongues with sticky ends that they flick out to catch their prey. The larvae of many amphibians mostly eat plants. Big and small. The largest amphibian is the Chinese giant salamander. It can grow to 6 feet long and weigh 140 pounds. The largest frog is the Goliath frog, which can grow to 15 inches long, not counting the legs, and weigh over 8 pounds. The smallest amphibian is a frog called the Paterfren amnionus. It is also the world's smallest vertebrate animal. It is about 0.3 inches long. Fun facts about amphibians. Most amphibians have thin, moist skin that helps them to breathe. Amphibians are considered vertebrates as they have a backbone. Frogs swallow their food whole. The size of what they can eat is determined by the size of the mouths and their stomach. Frogs cannot live in salt water. All amphibians have gills, some only as larvae and others for the rest of their lives. It is a myth, which means it's not true, that you can get warts from touching a frog or toad. A group of frogs is called an army. An amphibian's skin absorbs air and water. This makes them very sensitive to air and water pollution. In our previous text, remember the word permeable, where their skin can take in the water and the air through their skin, and we know that word is permeable. The word amphibian, the world amphibian population is in decline. It's getting less and less of amphibians. Remember from our first article, we know why it's getting less and less. You're going to get ready to answer some questions, but before you do, I want to make sure we take time to watch a short YouTube video that's going to remind us about text structure, that we have a poster in our classroom that focuses on text structure, but I want to make sure we go back and review it. It's been a while since we've been in the room to see that poster.
Much like buildings, text, especially informational and non-fiction text, have to be structurally sound, or else they'll fall over. You feel me? Yeah, let's get it. Let's go! When you read informational text, you see the pattern and the way that it's written, oh yes. There are 5 main structures you can check. Find the structure and they get less complex. Let's flex and break down all 5. Follow me, the text structure mastermind. This first text structure is called description. It describes the topic and its characteristics. You'll see such as and, for example, and details and adjectives like in this sample. The famous Leaning Tower of Pisa is located in Italy. Mamma mia! It stands over 180 feet tall, tilted 4 degrees like it's starting to fall. That's description. The author describes the tower, so you have the image in your mind. Now peep this, the structure called sequence. It gives events from way back to most recent. Construction began in 1173, but it was halted when war was decreed. Building stopped for a while, then resumes many years later in 1272. Sequence contains dates and the words next and before, first, second, and third. Cause and effect is another way to organize. It's when authors tell what happened and why. Soft soil made the tower settle unevenly. As a result, it leaned increasingly. Builders tried to balance it with more floors, but due to extra weight, it leans even more. Words like because, since, if, then, due to mean a cause and effect is coming right to you. In text, I find description, I find sequence, cause, and effect. We can compare and contrast all day. There's a problem and solution, I bet. In text, I find description, I find sequence, cause, and effect. We can compare and contrast all day. There's a problem and solution, I bet. If you heard the hook, you already know there's 2 more text structures to go. Sometimes an author introduces a problem and then explains how somebody solved it. The tower leans more with each passing century. The tilt increased to more than 5 degrees. The people feared it would collapse into ruins. Now we know the problem. What's the solution? Earth was removed from under the monument and weights were added to balance out the top of it. They corrected the lean at least a little bit. That's problem and solution, not a riddle, kid. Just look out for the words involved. Since question, problem, solution, and solve. I got another text you don't have to ask, and it's text structure, compare and contrast. It explains how things are different and the same with the words in bold I'm about to say. Both the Tower of Pisa's construction and the Washington Monument saw destruction. The Washington Monument, named after George, had construction paused for the Civil War. Like the Leaning Tower, it took years to finish, but the purposes of the buildings were different. One was erected as a church bell's tower, while the other honored a founding father. There we compared the 2 different towers. That's 5 text structures in a 16th of an hour. In text, I find description, I find sequence, cause, and effect. We can compare and contrast all day. There's a problem and solution, I bet. In text, I find description, I find sequence, cause, and effect. We can compare and contrast all day. There's a problem and solution, I bet.
So with our video, it now gets us ready for our lesson to focus on today's work. You're going to have 5 questions you need to answer based on what we just read and the video you just saw. First question, how is the article organized? What we're asking, what is the text structure of this article? You just saw a video that should help you with this. Number 2, what does metamorphosis mean as it was used within this text? Number 3, match the name of the correct amphibians with the photograph. You have A, frog, B, Sicilian, C, salamander. Once you put the correct letter in the boxes, then you need to go down and describe each one of them by remembering what was A. Whatever you said A was as a frog, you need to describe that frog based as it was within the text. You've got to use information from the article you just read. Can't just make it up from your mind. Whatever you said B was, you must describe it here and make sure you use text information, text evidence. And whatever you said C was, you must put it here and describe it, thinking about information from the article you just read. And the final part, number 5. How does the visual representation of this text compare to the written version? Let me explain what number 5 is asking. Think about the visual features. Think about the text features. In the article that we read, we had 3 photographs at the beginning. We had a diagram that we could see of the tadpole going to all the way from tadpole to frog. And then we had a bunch of words. So it's asking you, think about the visual features. How do they go with the rest of the writing? Do they go with the rest of the writing? Tell me how you know that is an answer. Also, make sure you take time to make sure you're completing your 45 minutes of iReady reading. Make sure you're completing your 45 minutes of iReady math for the entire week. There are also books on Mayan already set for you that you can choose to read through, or you can choose to read other books as well. If you have questions, please make sure to reach out to your teachers and ask the questions that you specifically have. If you're in Mr. Snyder's homeroom, we are working on the information on your social studies. You should have week 3 done by the end of this week. If you cannot type directly into the box, you do not have to do that question. Only do the ones that you can type directly into the text box for your answers. Thank you for participating in week 4 of day 4's e-learning lessons.